G'day, today we are talking side steps and we're working on Project 6-seater, our Hilux workmate, and today we're fitting side steps. So these ones have been done, as you can see, but we're going to talk side steps and fitting side steps to your 4x4, particularly if you've got something, you're buying and doesn't have them, obviously. There's two things principally that you want to determine, and then depending on which way you go, a couple of tips in buying used side steps if you go that path. So this is a N70 Hilux, that's 05 to 2015, and this is the last of the facelifts. So this is late 2011 onwards, so late 2011 through to 2015. But the N70 side steps will fit, any of the N70s, all the N70s. If they're a factory side step, they'll fit any of it. So just make sure that if you've got a space cab, buy side steps for a space cab. If you've got a dual cab, buy side steps for a dual cab. And if you've got a single cab, they didn't make factory side steps, apart from the aftermarket jobbies with the steel brush bars. So you'll have to go look for aftermarket, but obviously just make sure that your cab is the right size. It's not super common, but occasionally you can forget and end up with a set of space cab side steps for your dual cab, and obviously that's going to be no good. So the N70s, all of them, so this is, I don't know, this off a pre-facelifted model, I don't know which year it was, but they bolt straight up, so no problems. But what do you want to think about if you're looking to buy a set of side steps? Well, basically it's going to come down to whether you just want it as a step or whether you actually want some protection out of it. These are aluminium, they are light as, there's nothing to them. They're going to offer you no protection, okay? So if you're going out on the weekend and you don't want to damage your sills, you're going four-wheel driving, you're going up some pretty rough tracks, these are not rock sliders. As any of us will know, if we've gone down some pretty hardcore 4x4 tracks, it's not uncommon to find a set of side steps just sitting on the side of the road all mangled up, and the person's going, oh well, bugger it, get rid of these. In fact, I suspect this is what these are. I'd say someone's ripped these off. When I bought them, they were bugger all money, but they were bent like a pretzel. It was missing a mount. The mounts were all bent. Now they're pretty straight now. If you do buy a set real cheap and they've got a few bends in it and you want to straighten it out, block of wood and a hammer, a vise, that pretty much got them pretty straight to mount. So, but I got them cheap enough, I didn't really care. So, they're not going to offer you any protection at all. These are purely functional in terms of, in my case, got the Hilux, and my wife said, oh look, no side step. I can manage without it, but prefer the side step. So why do I fit these ones? Because I'm not going four-wheel driving. It's extraordinarily unlikely that I'm going to rip them off. So the factory ones will suffice for me. That's perfectly fine. Really, on the farm, this is all I'm going to need. It will help my wife get in and out of the car. It'll help the kids get in and out of the car. And the other thing is it actually stops a bit of mud flying up the side of your ute. With just the mud flaps, I've found, compared to my old Hilux, which had the side steps, is that the side steps really do stop a lot of mud flicking up the side of the car. So if you're going down after a bit of rain, it's not soaking wet, but it's damp. Sometimes I'll get to town without the side steps and it was just mud all up the side of the car, because I've got circa 10 k's of dirt to get to town. But with the side steps on, it'll still get muddy, but not nearly as much. So that's my principal reason for fitting the side steps. So the wife and kids can get in and out a little easier, and a little bit of protection. A little bit of protection from mud, stones flicking up. But in terms of if you're off four-wheel driving, these are doing nothing for you. So you will go to a set of rock sliders or something in really heavy steel. So similarly to people who fit like the double rail brush bars into solid steel, side steps by manufacturers like Tough Australia, they're looking for some protection. That's not what I'm looking for. So these will suffice. And look, if you're looking for a big set of brush bars from ARB, you're about $2,000. Tough are nearly $2,500 for a set of double brush bars and side steps. These were $50. So, it depends what you want. you know, if you're looking for a lot of protection, like I might have been persuaded if I found a set of, you know, ARB or tough double rails and steel side steps cheap, I might have been persuaded by that. But you know, for a ute that cost me 20 grand, I'm not paying 2.5 grand just for a set of side steps and double brush bars. It's just not going to happen. So yeah, if you just want the function, these will do fine. But again, it's just that's the principal question you're going to have to ask yourself. What do I want out of them? And do I want protection, or do I basically just want function? If you want function, these will be fine. So if you're going to buy a set of side steps, and this pretty much applies, this is specific to the N70 Hilux a little, but it does apply to pretty much any utility that you're looking to buy. So you found a set of side steps for sale. What do you want to check? First thing, if you're buying them secondhand, you want them straight. These weren't straight, but I managed to get them straight, but it was a bit of work, and you have to be either willing to do that, and I had to fabricate a mount. There was a mount completely missing, and we had to fabricate a mount. So, and the mounts were loose. They were all loose, so I've drilled out the standard rivets, and I put all new rivets in it. In this one, I've changed my mind. This is for the other Hilux, and I've actually put bolts in it because the pop rivets, they move, and they're gonna get a little bit of play. These are nice and sturdy now with the larger size rivet. These are fine for now, but with these ones, I've actually bolted them down. I think that's probably a better move, because if they do get loose, you can tighten them up. They've got washers, spring washers, and nylockers on them. They shouldn't come undone, but if they did, I can tighten them up. You know, have them nice and rigid. Not a problem at all. So check your steps are straight, or if it's got a little bit of a whoop in it, make sure that, you know, you go, oh, I think I can get that out. Fine, fair enough. You know, mounting hardware. So the N70s, most of the dual cab side steps will have 3 mounts, one front, middle, and rear. Make sure they're all there. If you can fabricate a mount, happy days. We fabricated a mount for this one. It was the middle one that was missing, and made a new mount. You know, it's a bit of time. If your time's worth nothing, then happy days. If your time's very, very valuable, you probably don't want that set of steps. Or if you can't fabricate it at all, then spin on, move to the next one. Front and rear, they'll have front and rear rubbers, or a front and rear end cap at least. You want to make sure they're there. They often can get torn off and they'll be missing. It's aesthetics, sure, but you know, some of them can have a sharp edge. If you've got kids getting in and out, you know, if there's a sharp edge, they'll find it. There's a reason that the caps are on it, the end caps are on it. It's to prevent that sort of thing. You know, kids trip over getting into the car, smack their head on it. It's going to hurt enough, but if it's sharp edge, it could be the difference between a big cut and just a big bruise. So I would make sure you got that. And then mounting hardware. The mounting hardware is not the end of the world, but it is an additional cost that you'll have to meet. You'll have to find, this is pretty much held on with 12mm bolts, and that's pretty much all it is. It's 2 at the back, 1 in the center with a nut, a 12mm so for a 12mm bolt nut, and then at the front, they're actually there. They're actually in the bodywork. There's 2 12mm bolts in the front where the front mounting bracket goes, and you undo them. So if you get those bolts when you buy new ones, you'll end up with double ups because they're already there. But the ones in the middle and the ones at the back, the bolts and the nuts aren't so 3 bolts, 1 nut, they're not there, but the 2 at the front, they're there from factory. They're just screwed in, even painted white. So they're ready to go for the front bracket, but for middle and back, they're not there. So if you get the mounting hardware, the bolts and the nut, it's just going to make it a little easier for you. You can just bolt it straight in. If they're missing, it's not a big deal. You can go to Bunnings and, you know, find the bolt. What I would do if you're putting it on an N70 Hilux and you didn't know and you didn't want to carry the side skirt around, what I'd do is I'd undo the 2 front bolts, or undo one of them, take it into your hardware store, or see if you've got one at home that's same as a standard 12mm bolt. And then just you'll need 1 nut and then 3 others. If you've got a nut with a spring washer or something on it, that's probably a good idea. If you're just buying a generic nut, that's probably a good idea, or use a nylocker or something. But they're not hard to fit. You can fit them by yourself. They're light as a feather. It's not going to be a hard job to lift it. It's not a hard job. I put these in myself, and it's really not a big deal. The end caps on these are secured by two screws at the front, two screws at the back to hold the end caps on. They should be there unless the thing's been torn off, in which case the end cap might be missing, but the two screws are probably still going to be screwed into the aluminium. You know, you'll soon know if they're missing. And then it's really just condition. You can see these are weathered a little bit. They could do with a polish, but I'm not bothered with polishing side skirts. These ones are in a bit better condition. But yeah, I mean, it's not a difficult job, but it makes the ute look a lot more aesthetically pleasing in my mind. I think they look a lot. I think the ute looks a lot better with the side steps on it. You can disagree if you want. That's fine, but it's really simple. So you just you'll see the mounts. The front mount screws into the body itself, and that's already tapped ready. There's two, as I said, the two bolts are already there, and it's into the body itself. And then the middle one, there's a flat plate that the mount's already there. It's sticking down. It's already tapped. And there's a bolt sticking through it. So when you put them on, I would hang it from the front one first, because there's a bolt sticking out, and you can just hang it on it, and then just loosely put your nut on it, and then you can work your front and rear out. But before you start, take those two bolts out. When I mounted the first one, I hung it, and then realized, oh crap, the front two bolts are already there, so I had to take it off. So take those front two bolts out, hang it, and then put the nut on, and then then just work your way front and rear, tighten it. Make sure you adjust it, get it level, get it sitting right with your body work, tighten everything up, and you'll have some solid side steps. And if you're just getting these and all you're expecting is to, you know, maybe stop a bit of mud flicking up and make it a bit easier for the kids or yourself or your wife or whomever to get in and out of the car, this will suit you a-okay. So good cheap things. What do you pay for a set of them? The pair of this one, I overpaid for this considering the condition they were in. $50 for them, $50 for these. You know, I've seen them advertised for up to $200 and they sit there forever. I think that's probably a bit much. You know, you can buy a set of steel aftermarket ones. They're not rock sliders, but they're steel brand new for $300. So, you know, $200 probably a little bit close considering how light they are. But, you know, they are easy to bolt on because they're all factory and they're nice and easy to mount. But, you know, with an N70, they're getting pretty old now. Like this is towards the end of them. This is a 2012, so that's 10 years old at this point. So they're getting pretty old. So if you find someone who's got a set, they've either just bought one and gone, oh, I don't want the side steps, rip them off, or more likely they've been leaning against the wall of their shed since they bought one back in 2010 or something. And now they just want to clean their shed out and get rid of it. So if someone gets $50 for it, happy days. So $50, $70, something like that. If you got it and they were pristine, absolutely perfect, taken off a new vehicle with all the brackets dead straight and the mounting hardware all included, look, you might get pushed to $100, but that'd be my limit, quite frankly. You see a few N80 side steps for sale for around $200. Again, you know, they're everywhere because people don't want them. So I would pay less than that. And depends on condition and whether you get all the brackets and stuff for them. So the N80s will not fit the N70s unless you change the mounting brackets over. The mounting brackets from the N80, the three mounting brackets for the N80 will not fit the N70. They're different. So you can adapt the N80 to the N70 if you want to. I think the N80 looks better, the side steps look better than the N70s, and you can adapt them, but you do need to modify how they're mounted and use a set of N70 mounts. So keep that in mind. If you think, oh, I've got an N70, it's probably going to fit an N80. No, if you just bought the N80 side steps and tried to fit it to the N70, stand without changing anything, it won't fit, they're different. So keep that in mind too. So quick modification, you know, geez, like half hour. If you're reasonably competent, you'll get them fitted. It's really not a big deal as long as you don't have to modify. If you've got all the hardware, the mounts are straight, side steps are straight, bring them home, you'll have the thing rolling with side steps on it in under an hour. Not a problem at all, unless you're mucking around or something. So nice little addition there. Keep it in mind, again, back to the start, they won't offer you any protection if you're off-roading. In fact, you fit these, go off-roading and you go over a crest of rock, you'll probably tear the bastards off and then you'll be looking for another set the following week. So hope this was useful for you. This should apply to most four-wheel drive vehicles that you're looking at. you know, just change the make, you know, whether it's a BT50 or a D-Max or something. The same sort of things apply, but you just have to check where your mounts are. So for example, if you bought a D-Max, you had a base model that didn't have side steps and you bought a set of side steps, it would be worth just having a quick look under your under your vehicle to see how the mounts are, and you'll see if they'll slot in. So this is the next video on Project 6-Seater as we work on making this into a little bit more of a comfortable family car. Thanks for joining us in this series. Appreciate you watching.